Good morning, welcome. This is Good Morning Anambra Weekend Edition. We'd like to thank you very much for joining us this morning. Good morning, Obina.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. You look very pretty this morning.
Oh, really? As
Yeah.
always. Thank you.
No, but today was exceptional.
It's weekend.
Come, come on
And
with it.
it's a very special day for our comrade that, that
Yeah.
failed the other time. So today is the burial of our own brother, Emeka Mimi
Yeah.
Okeke. It's already happening at Northia today. So once we finish from here, we'll hit the road to Northia. May his soul rest in peace.
Yeah, he was actually the first person who, took me on air in
Oh,
ABS.
really?
Yeah, yeah. He was the first person.
Against
And,
us.
yes, on sports. Yeah, it was. And he gave me a lot of other opportunities, though. Linked me to some other jobs. I think when I worked in a media house, the first media house I worked with aside here, he was very influential to that. So I thank him. I'm not saying he's a perfect human being, but
Yeah.
he was really he was very great to me.
Yeah.
So may his
Well,
soul
I
rest
know
in
that
peace.
he gave his all to whatever he is doing, whether friendship or work or anything. That's one thing I know Emeka for. Well, we pray that the Lord will show him mercy in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen.
Okay, moving on now. We want to look at this topic, protecting the environment for climate action and a sustainable future, 2026 Environment Day. Of course, this is to mark the 2026 Environment Day, which has a theme as inspired by nature for climate for our future. Wow. Okay. So, and to look at this, we have an expert that is going to look at that. She is a regular here, Chinelo Umokafo. Chinelo Umokafo is the Secretary, Anambra Environment Society, Anambra State Chapter. Good morning, Chi.
Good morning.
Good
Good
to
morning,
have you here.
Anambra. I'm so happy to be here.
Okay, you're welcome.
You have to be happy now. You always talk about the environment. It's something that seems to interest you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the environment is changing in all ramifications, and I think this is apt that we'll talk about it this period. So, Chi, from the time you were here last to this period, how will you assess our environment generally?
Okay. I think I was here like last week or last week.
Okay,
I was talking about
in
flood.
the other bit.
Yes.
Okay.
So we actually assessed how Nigeria have improved in giving early warning signs of flooding and all that, but where we have not actually improved. So it's more of a bittersweet experience for us in Nigeria, and we hope that we can do more towards that.
Very important. Now that we are, I wouldn't say the onset of rainy season. It's like we are in the middle already. So how will you assess this? Let's assess this immediate environment of ours. Will you say that everything is properly put in place to ensure that we don't have any problem by way of environmental degradation, flood, waste management, and a whole lot of things?
Sadly, no, we are not ready. So sadly, we are not. Because if you are conscious of your environment, coming from wherever you're coming from, if you look at the drainages, for instance, you will see most of them are filled up to the brim. And where would the water pass? Is it not through those drainages? So it's like we just leave everything to fate and just hope that it will work itself out. But this thing is, we need to have
Are we supposed to leave everything to fate? If the drainages are blocked,
Exactly,
I think
we need
there
to
are
have
particular agencies that are concerned about
Exactly.
that. Or is everybody now standing on the road and stopping vehicles when you're supposed to be
So
walking?
we have to really, because this year's Environmental Day is more of, let's take action. It's not really, yes, we do the advocacy, awareness creation, educating and all that. But I think it's now time for us to take action. It's not now, there are agencies that are actually in charge of environmental sanitation, environmental waste management and all that. We now need to take action. So if something like flooding that is a regular thing for us in Anambra State is still a problem in 2026, is really like we are not actually doing anything. And I think I was reading I was looking at a video clip of Ugidi. Ogidi, talking about flood is kind of funny.
The KP Junction.
Yes,
around that place.
well, if Ogidi is talking about a flood, what happens to the riverine areas?
I think that place is a kind of blockade, not just
So, but what was the problem?
not just
What was the problem with
flooding.
Ogidi?
You
Because
know,
I passed through there very recently, and it's quite deplorable and unfortunate what you see there. Because this is a community that is in the heart of, will I say, Anambra. It's not like you said, in the river. What do you think is the problem?
I think the problem with Ogidi, which I've not actually assessed, but I think the problem there is the drainage issues. Because if the water or the road, when you are constructing a road and there is drainage that carry the water from the road down to the right places it's supposed to go, probably the nearest river or the retention ponds, then it becomes a straight something. When rain falls, everywhere clears. But now the drainages are actually filled up. So they need to desilt them. You know the regular thing we do, at least I've seen them in Oka, where the enforcement agencies come out to tell people remove debris from your drainage. They remove it eventually because the agencies are there. They leave it by the side of the drainage.
like I saw through this road that I applied
Exactly.
now, this road that led to House of Assembly and then Ekweme Junction out there. A lot of debris out
And
of
they
the-
leave it there.
They leave it there. So
Yes.
when the next rain comes,
It pushes.
it moves
Sends it back.
So we're actually not really doing anything. When the enforcement agencies are there, they do the regular.
So how long is it going to take the agency to cut away these things to ensure that it doesn't get back to the drainages? I don't really understand because
That is
these
why
are-
I said.
this
That is why I said we need to actually do more. It's not really like it's not only
doing
enforcing.
more. No, doing more is calling out the people that are supposed to do more. I am a broadcaster. I'm not going to pack those cabbages. I have woken up this morning to come here very early to do my job. So why won't the next person, do his or her own job?
You said you're a broadcaster. That is why we are calling the environmental sanitation and waste management agencies to actually, they have enforcement agents that are in the field. So if these enforcement agencies or agents are in the field, they should make sure that as much as telling people to remove or throw their waste in the right places, that they are sure that the people actually do it. Because I don't know why it's always they come and people just do the regular thing that we do and leave it. We wait for the next time they come. That is why I said it's not really just doing it at the time. It's a continuous thing. Now, we have this monthly sanitation that we do in Anambra. And that Saturday, based on because there is enforcement agencies that will not allow you to move around and all that, people just stay in their house or eventually do some sanitations. But after that Saturday, that is the sanitation, what happens to the regular, everyday cleaning up your environment?
Yeah, this question, let me answer it. I think that's what the governor looked at and said that we don't have to continue with this kind of one Saturday in a month to clean our environment. Once in a month, then it's cancelled. Clean of environment is an everyday thing.
Exactly.
Of course, a lot of people in this state, they don't even know that that thing has been cancelled for a very long time, over 6 months now. You clean your environment every day. And I think it's reflected in some of the places, I stay in Onitsha anyway, some of the places in Onitsha, like the markets and those, they cut away the main markets, they cut away their garbages every day, unlike before they wait till the end of the month. Okay, and that reminds me, these debris that they bring out from the drainages, I think before you start bringing them out, there's need for you to keep the tipper there waiting. As you are bringing it, some other people will be, uploading it immediately to the tipper for onward movement.
Yes.
Otherwise,
that is where the enforcement agencies come. They should be working in hand with the waste management agency too. When you are bringing out the debris, and that is why they leave it by the side of the drainage, because there is nothing to actually move it from that place to the dump site. So the person has already cleared their drainage. So who moves it? Who
It's the
takes
same
it?
agency, so let's do it hand in hand. That's what we're saying.
Yes.
It's just because nobody's calling anybody out, and then nobody's holding anybody to account to anything. That's why we'll continue doing this thing. It continues before you know it. Now, by the time you cross that in the next 2 days, those things or any rain that just drops now, it will move it back to the, to the drainages, and then you have not done anything.
Exactly.
You wouldn't say you have cleaned it.
Exactly.
Okay?
So I think this year's Environment Day is actually talking about our actions that we do on a daily basis that leads to these environmental degradations. So if we as individuals, as much as we know that government have the role to play, if we as individuals start doing the cleaning up at least every day, not throwing our waste into the drainages, taking it to the dump site, and the government also on their own end, making sure that the dump site is always free, because that is another problem on its own. So the waste management team needs to actually do more, because it's a different thing carrying your waste from your house to the dump site. And when you get to the dump site, it's another appalling place. So I think
smells and all that.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at the fact that the World Environmental Day from a national perspective and also a global perspective. All right, according to reports, okay. Now, according to reports from the United Nations, what was this one? Now, according to reports from the United Nations, we have about, 2024 was said to be the hottest year on record at about 1.48 degrees Celsius, which is said to be above industrial. Then 2025 is on track to break it again, and other related things. Then also on Nigeria's climate vulnerability, the World Bank says Nigeria is ranked among the top 10 most vulnerable countries. And the NIMET says the average temperature in Nigeria is up to 1.1 degrees Celsius, which has been there since 1960, and a whole lot of things. So the big question is, aside the fact that, okay, we've got flood, which we've just mentioned now, what are some of those other issues that Nigeria face in the environment? We've talked about the heat wave, and so what are some of those other issues we face in the environment?
Okay. Bringing it down to Nigeria, or even bringing it down to Anambra. For Anambra, we have flooding and gully erosion. Not just erosion, it's gully erosion. Because if you move down from Agolonanka, Ekulobia, and all those sections, it's gully erosion that is the environmental issues that we have there. But when you move down to the north, it's still flooding and desertification, because there the temperature is higher and all that. So for Nigeria, it's really flooding, desertification, gully erosion. That is our major.
Yeah, because we say about 35% of Nigeria's land mass is affected by desert encroachment.
Yes.
And especially due to the fact that the Sahara is moving south at about 0.6 kilometers per year, and due to the fact that we cut a lot of trees and all that.
That is why even in the north presently, because majority of the environmental work I do is in the north. So when you go there, they have so many initiatives of tree planting and all that. So they keep going to these desert places and try to find trees that will grow there to actually protect the environment. So they have started taking proactive measures. But the thing also is, you need to also educate the people that are cutting trees, because somebody that doesn't have money to, of recent I heard that the gas price for cooking is 2,000 naira per kg.
I was going to buy yesterday. It's not up to 2,000
for this side. I think in Lagos,
but depending on the location.
I think in Lagos, Abuja is 2,000 naira per kg. And these people are actually vulnerable. And you tell them to go and buy, how many of them can afford 1 kg of gas of 2,000? So they go back to the farms and cut the trees that you actually planted to use for firewoods and all that. Which, as much as cutting of trees is bad, the emissions that come out from the firewood and all that is also not good for the environment. So you need to also educate the
people say that, and I think one time President Bola Tinubu said something about that, and lots of other, individuals have talked about that. Talked about using firewood to cook. This is something our fathers cooked with, and spoil environment. So why is it are environmentalists now talking about?
Because when you bring the olden days, when our fathers, they had so many trees. The trees, in fact, majority of the trees that our fathers had, they have been cut down of somebody building houses and all that. So you can't compare our fathers when in each household. In fact, I think in my village, only my grandfather
our village, in fact.
Only my grandfather had more than 20 palm trees. How many people can boast of 20 palm trees presently? So is the trees that have been cut, that have been turned to firewood, that is now creating the space for desertification eventually.
So where desertification is a problem, but
yes,
here I think our own is
it's flood and gully
erosion, like you said. Yes, if you want to bring in the olden days, you bring a lot of things to a lot of factors in, like the population. There were not many then. Okay.
Yeah.
So. And this kind of environmental problems that we have now, they don't have it then. This burning of gensets here and the big generators and the whole of the, heating up the environment. There are a whole lot of things that you can take away from that. But the fact remains that we want to look at the actions that we're supposed to take to sustain our future when it comes to environment. So what is your agency doing to ensure that these things that the environment is sustained? What action are they bringing to the table?
Okay. Majority of what the Nigerian Environmental Society do is education and awareness. Awareness is not necessarily just the public, but the government too. Because it's not everybody that is environmental preview. Exactly. So it's not everybody. So you have to actually educate people on the reason why they should do some things. So as much as we do that, we also go to communities and plant trees, tell them how to maintain the trees and all the environmental benefits from at least the easiest is the tree planting, I think so.
Tree planting, economic tree planting.
Yes.
Not just any tree. Because you get to some environment, you see a tree that does not, make any sense to us, and you keep wondering, what is this one doing here? In as much as we need the vegetation, the green vegetation, but the fact remains that our governor now said that if you must have tree, if you must plant tree, plant economic tree. That will yield something for you in future, and then you won't see the need to cut it down.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's also look at, I know we've talked about it briefly, let us also look at the roles waste management or, or waste pollution, the role they play in degrading the environment or making the environment, unsustainable for us. So what are some of those things that can be put in check? I know we've talked about the fact that the government is responsible, but what are some of those things that can be put in check to make sure that the environment is not polluted with waste, to make it more conducive for us to live in?
I think the first thing we should do as individuals, while waiting for the government to build the infrastructure where this is, actually just selecting our waste. That is the first thing. When you bring the olden days, you said about the olden days, our fathers have a way of selecting their waste. As in, I don't know who taught them, but they have a way of selecting.
Basically, the waste they generate then is
used for something else.
They don't use this cellophane to type things,
exactly.
to wrap things in those days.
So everything is used for something else.
Yes.
So how come we that are now educated and have gone to these so much schools are the ones that are now doing the most terrible things to the environment?
It's civilization.
So sometimes I think we need to actually move, because now recycling is a thing and people actually benefit economically from recycling. So if in your house, you take bottled water, sachet water, and pack them as recyclable products, and now move to the ones that are degradable, like that can be turned to manure, and pack them separate. When you're taking it to the dump site, it makes it easy for the management or waste management people to just pack the ones that are recyclable, put it in the recycle section, and move the other ones to where it can be used for manure and all that. So it's a collective effort that we have to actually put in place. We have our role to play as individuals. The government have their, as much as the majority of the load is on the government, because the infrastructure has to be in place. Because telling people to go and put, plant trees, who provides the trees? Do you get?
And the government provided coconuts the other
yes,
day.
Yes, I was in the agricultural development is when they were sharing the coconut. Yes, I was there because I actually read agric.
So, really?
Yeah,
oh, that's interesting.
I read agric, but somehow agric and environment have a way of
I know,
meeting
maybe
together.
that's why you have this knack for environment.
Yes. So when they were doing the tree planting initiative, people actually came to collect it. You will see that actually, if the government can actually provide some of these things, people will actually plant. Who doesn't want coconuts in their house? Do you know how much coconut is right now in there? So economic value and also to the environment. So I think the government had the bulk of the blame and responsibilities. But as individuals, we can actually still help out the government in some places by doing the right things, because there are actually environmental laws and regulations that we need to obey. So I think that is where we individuals have to do our own.
Okay. Okay, let's begin to look at the theme of this year's celebration, which said inspired by nature for climate and for our future. Of course, some of these things we are already looking at them, but let's, what do you mean by inspired by nature? What does that mean exactly?
Okay. You know how somehow the nature has a way of taking care of itself. Yeah. So inspired by nature. If, assuming that you don't, let me even use the easiest example. If you have a tree in your house, using tree as an example, and the leaves falls, what happens to it? If you don't sweep it, eventually it has a way of incorporating back to the environment, providing nutrients to the tree again, and the tree now provide the oxygen that we need. When we remove the carbon dioxide, it goes back, as in the tree uses it to produce food. Like the nature has a way of replenish itself. But human activities eventually is what is now making this environment degraded, because majority of what is happening is the human activities. Like as you said, generators, transportation. In fact, there are some families, the children have one car, the mom has one car, the father, and it's a flex for us, but that is a way of we destroying the environment, because the carbons that come out from the vehicles are actually not good for the environment. So why we are imitating in the nature is find a way to replenish our environment and reduce our human activities that causes harm to the environment.
Okay, all right. No, before you come, let's take a break here, and then we'll come back and start looking at exactly what we need to do to make sure that we'll have a good environment, or bequeath a good environment to our children, because our parents bequeathed a very good one to us, and then we have messed it up. Yeah. Okay, we'll take a break here. We're coming back.
Anambra Broadcasting Service, ABS. With delight, we bring you the light that we bear through our illustrious leaders. Our icons. Our industrious people. Our rich culture. Our places of pride. And our mouth-watering cuisine. With unbridled professionalism and renewed tenacity, we serve you real-time news, information, entertainment of varied genres with unfettered reach of your clients and customers. AB
Back to the discussion segment of the Good Morning Anambra, where we have been looking at the topic protecting the environment for climate action and a sustainable future in commemoration of the 2026 World Environment Day. And of course, we've had with us Chinelo Mukafa, who's the Secretary, Nigeria Environment Society, Anambra State Chapter. And of course, we'll be looking at a whole lot about the environment globally and here in Nigeria, especially down to Anambra State. And now we're back to discussion. Let's look at how best we can, because we just talked about pollution in terms of having a lot of unhealthy gas emission, like say things like vehicles and all that. So let us look at renewable energy. Some of these things that can actually reduce poisonous gas emission to the environment and all that. So what are some of those? What is the best approach to renewable energy?
I think that is where the government come in, because renewable energy is not something, as much as we individuals in Nigeria have started using solar for our electricity and cars, electric cars and all that. But I think the government needs to emphasize, as in put in more effort in renewable energy initiatives. Because if, for instance, this solar was subsidized in some places or in Nigeria or in Anambra State, it will make it easier for a common Nigerian to get solar. Now, I know the amount of solar is skyrocketed, so I think the government needs to actually work towards renewable energy initiatives to help the common Nigerian.
So what are some of these renewable energy initiatives that the government can begin to look into? Like
solar energy. Like there is wind energy. I know there is also wind energy. So, but the popular one for us, because of the rise in temperature and this thing, is actually solar energy. The wind, I think, in the northern part of it, and also solar in the northern part. But in Anambra State, we use solar.
Largely.
Yes, and electric vehicles. I think electric is also an option instead of using fossil fuel.
Yeah, according to reports, there seems to be an increase in the use of electric vehicles globally, and even recently in Nigeria, we've seen people using. We see our brother Nene, we producing electric, and the whole number
even Bilot.
Yes,
even the Bilot in Anambra State.
I'm trying not to mention names.
Does it matter? They're our brothers. Give them the credit.
Our brothers, we see many of them going into electric vehicles and all that. So what are the positives that these things have for our environment, our immediate environment?
So many benefits. At least the fossil fuel burning, and it reduces the emission of gas to the environment. At least that is the major thing, because majority of what causes this environmental change, climate change, are things that are going into the environment, like carbon dioxide, methane, and some gases, which are not good for the environment. So that is the benefits we get when we start using renewable energy for our daily use.
Okay, we have talked about how to control this um, environment to make sure that we'll have a very healthy one, because I think there's one governor that said that the environment you abuse today will take its toll on you tomorrow. You know, so so that's where we are now. So we're still looking at the theme inspired by nature for climate, and then for our future. We're talking about renewable energy now, but I know there are some industries that are cited, you know, are the residential areas. And some of these industries, they produce, I mean, the emission that comes from that place is even harmful to the environment and the human beings in that same environment, that those of them that produce foam, so a whole lot of them, you know, you say, you go to a place like Bosi. Of course, it was supposed to be an industrial estate, okay? But then they have built residential buildings there, and, you know, living together with that. Then talk about the what do you call it, the gas stations that are built even in residential areas. You know, there's a 4-story building that people are occupying this side. There's a gas station here. And then there's another building, but there's another one flanking it, you know, behind. And you keep wondering, who lives like this? What must we do to ensure that we have a mapped out industrial area that where they settle, and then we know how to control whatever that is coming from that, than living within the residential?
I think that is where I always say that the bulk of the responsibility lies with the government. There is actually environmental laws and regulation. The government have agencies.
So what are the challenges these agencies are facing?
Exactly.
To make sure that these things are you know, being brought in place, because it's actually a core concern.
For you
people
to
constructing in places that, you know, constructing in ways that are quite very you know, unfortunate.
That is it. For you to even have an industry running in Nigeria, you should do an environmental impact assessment, which assess the environmental damages that your company will bring to the environment and how to mitigate those impacts. So now, how many of these companies have EIAs?
All those EIA mean?
That is environmental impact assessment. How many of them? How many, and after this environmental impact, when you work with international bodies like World Bank or African Development Bank, when they do environmental analysis, after the project is done, they come back to do something called environmental audit to actually assess the environment, like before and after. After this,
so before you continue, whose responsibility is it to provide the EIA? Is that what they call it?
There are consultants that do EIA, as in the consultants register with the Ministry of Environment and are licensed to do EIAs.
On a private basis?
Yes. But the government when you finish an EIA, you submit it back to the government.
Is it part of the requirement that I need to have before I'm able to build an industry?
Yes.
And who is enforcing it?
The government.
Government. Oh, yeah. Okay. Go on.
So that is why I said there is actually a department called environmental protection in every state government. The national body, there is NESRA that take care of enforcement in the national body, and they are trickled down to the state, because I know there is a NESRA office in Anambra State that is supposed to actually go around to make sure that these environmental assessments are actually done. But the problem with our Nigerian system is that nobody actually talks about environmental assessment. And when they do talk about it, after the company has started production, nobody actually comes back to actually know what the company is emitting to the environment. So that is where the issue is.
Even when they go, they will be sorted out, like you said, Nigerian pattern, and then nobody does anything. Okay, it is the money that, you know, is doing everything for us now. Our guy will be informed that some people are coming to inspect this place. He would have told them the amount of money to package in the envelope and keep for them. Possibly offer them very, you know, choice wine and a whole lot of things. And then they'll forget what they came there to do.
You know, there is this thing that World Bank says that
find their way
there
out.
is actually a World Bank statement that I always use. you have to leave the environment better off than it was before you met it. But in fact, if you go back to going down to the construction, when you come to construction work, there are some drainages that even terminate by in fact, somebody will build a drainage, a contractor that has an environmental expert in his team. You will build a drainage and terminate it as an indiscriminately.
Just stop it somewhere.
Whatever happens, let it happen. It doesn't concern me. I've taken care of my own side.
You have done my work. But this drainage is supposed to get to a water body. But you have now stopped it somewhere. And when it starts causing issues, you'll be like, it's not my business. I've done my work. So that is where World Bank always says, if you want to do a development project, do an environmental assessment. After you finish your development project, come back to make sure that the environment is better off than it was when you met it. But I don't know who keeps telling us that we don't need to do that environmental audit to make sure we actually know how the environment is.
Nobody is supervising anybody, and nobody is being held accountable for any wrongdoing. That's why we're having this problem. By the time we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in an industrial estate, and 1 or 2 persons are jailed for for wrongdoing in the environment, others will sit up.
You know, before we used to have this waste management mobile court, where if you disobey this waste as an environmental sanitation thing, you will be tried immediately and carried to the this thing if you are found guilty. But now what happens to it? As in somehow we have just neglected the environment and expecting it to just be there and still be the same way.
Be friendly to us.
And somehow our life expectancy in Nigeria has reduced to 50, I think 54. And we don't even know. Nobody is actually asking the question, why? Do you get? Our fathers were living up to 120. My grandmom is still alive and living well, working with her 2 legs. This one, you see somebody that is 30 something and the person is suffering sugar, high BP, and I think this lasts from January to this moment. I know how many people we have heard that died of cancer.
People that used to know, very dead
and
people.
researchers have not been able to tell us why these things are in a very high rate now. This cancer thing, I keep wondering, when in the days of our mom, okay, cancer. I don't really understand.
We used to call it white man sickness, right?
Was it there?
It was not even there. That is the thing. But now
you don't have a name for what you don't know.
When you talk about it, it's obviously, you eat too much bread. Oh, if we no chop bread, we don't go chop.
That is where it comes down to how you treat your environment. Everything still boils down to you eat from the environment. Clean air, clean water is from the environment.
True.
We say it's not our business when we do bad jobs, but at the end of the day, it has a way of indirectly coming back to us.
Eating bread is not the problem.
It's not the problem.
But you are eating unsupervised bread. Nobody is supervising the making of the bread. We've been eating bread now since time
because it makes me feel bad. Because if I'm eating bread, I'm not always.
Honestly.
Even water. Our mothers used to go to the stream and fetch
drink water from the stream.
Direct from the stream.
But now we are drinking pure water, bottled water and everything. And
no typhoid then. No. Now they tell you that it will cause typhoid. Please give your environmental message for 2026 as we go.
I think as Nigerian Environmental Society and concerned citizens like all of us that are here, that we should work together to get a greener environment and a safer and a healthier environment. I think that is my statement this morning.
Okay.
We should all work together. Let's not leave it for only the government.
All right. Thank you. Let's go.
All right, thank you very much for joining us on this edition of this segment of the Good Morning Anambra right on ABS Television. Well, we talked about protecting the environment for climate action and a sustainable future in commemoration of the 2026 World Environment. The report says 7 million people die globally due to results from air pollution and things that are very much connected to the environment. This is really very terrible. So we have to make effort to make sure that people stop dying. We have to make effort to make sure that the environment is quite, livable for every single one of us. All right, so thank you very much, Chinelo Umokafo, Secretary, Nigeria Environment Society, Anambra State Chapter. She's from Ezinifte, my town too. So
Don't come and start bonding in my program.
No, we are not bonding. I'm just
bonding.
You're not bonding. I just want people to know. So when you see good-looking people that are from Ezinifte.
Oh, really?
Yes, now.
Yes.
See Chinelo, see us in movies.
All right, thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Chinelo, for coming around, and every other person who joined us this program. Thank you, Eko. We're behind the scene and all that. So, all right, stay tuned. We'll bring you more programs.